Very good morning, students. Welcome back to online session on Java programming course. In our previous session, we discussed about the static and final keywords, the different ways of memory management using static keyword, and the different restrictions that can be imposed on variables, on methods, and on classes using final keyword we have discussed in our previous session. So in today's session, we'll be discussing about the nested classes, the classes which we are keeping within a class. I mean, what are the scope rights we are going to have when we keep a class within another class, and whatever the access restrictions we are going to get when we keep a class within another class. So the different terminologies that we are going to use, that we are going to refer these type of nested classes that we are going to see in our today's session. Okay, so without much ado, let's just start today's concept, that is inner classes, Java's inner classes. So what exactly an inner class or a nested class, and when we have to refer it as an inner class and when we have to refer it as a nested class. Okay, the two different terms, we have nested class, we have inner class, both are giving the same meaning. So when we are keeping a class within another class, we are referring it as a nested class, and when we are keeping a class within another class, we are referring it as inner class as well. Okay, are they just the synonyms, or any meaning difference they are having, or any logic difference they are having, that we need to discuss? Okay, so Java's inner classes or nested classes is a class which is declared inside the class or inside another interface. So what is an interface and how it is different from a class, that we will see in our second unit, that is in our upcoming sessions. Very soon we will discuss about interfaces. Over there we will have the complete knowledge about the interfaces. Okay, so first let's just see what is inner classes and nested classes. So why we use this nesting of classes, or why we keep one class as part of another class, means to logically group different classes or different interfaces as a one entity. Okay, in one place or as a one single entity. In order to group them logically, we put multiple classes inside one single class, so that they will become nested classes or inner classes. Hopefully you understood. So to get the understandability, or to get the more readability, or so that they will become easily maintainable, so to achieve all these things, we are using the concept of nesting the classes within another classes. So basically what are all the things we are achieving by doing so? In the sense, we are logically grouping them with the help of these inner classes and nested classes concept, logically grouping the classes and interfaces in one place, so that they can be more readable and maintainable. What will happen? Understandability will increase because the code complexity will be reduced, so understandability will be increased. And the maintainability, once the understandability is more, and you are maintaining all the classes like a single unit, the maintenance will also become easy. Okay, so maintainability will also increase. Okay, so additionally, it can access all the data members of your outer class. So when you are having inner classes, when you are having nested classes, the nested classes can access all the data members of outer classes, including the private members. Okay, including the private data members and methods. Remember this one. So when your nested class is becoming a part of outer class, ultimately it will have the scope right of private data members as well, private data members and methods as well. If it is a non-static nested class, it cannot have the access right to static data members of your outer class. Remember this one, because non-static context cannot access the static data members. Already we discussed this one. Okay, so all these advantages we are going to have when we group the classes, when we make the classes as inner classes or nested classes to the outer classes. So syntax, you can see it is very easy. So we have started an outer class, and inside the outer class we are keeping the inner class. That's it. Simply we are taking blocks, we are taking the curly brackets to separate the outer class and inner class. So inner class entirely will become a part of outer class. So this inner class will have the access to the data members of outer class. Whatever data members you are declaring over here inside the outer class, your inner class will have the complete access to them. Okay, including the private, because this inner class is a part of your outer class. So it will have the access right to private data members as well. Hopefully you understood. So the next thing, yeah, the advantages over here, we are discussing that only. Okay, there are basically 3 advantages when we do the inner classes inside Java program. Okay, in your Java, that is it can access all the data members. That is the first advantage, and the very important advantage we can say. The nested class, it can access all the data members of your outer class. Okay, including the private data members. Okay, that is the first advantages. Okay, so by making the classes as nested classes, we are making the code more readable and maintainable. Okay, if you group these classes and interfaces logically, they will come at one place so that you can easily read. You can readability, increasing readability in the sense increasing understandability. Okay, increasing understandability, how easily you are understanding the stuff. Okay, so if you group all the classes and interfaces logically, they will become a single unit, a single piece, so that you will have more readability and maintainability. Okay, that is the second advantages. The second advantage, that is more readability and more maintainability. Okay, then the last one, code optimization. So you can, by grouping the interfaces and classes together, you can avoid the unnecessary code. So let us assume that you are writing some methods repeatedly in more number of classes, more number of logically related classes. So that same methods you can easily, that redundant methods you can easily remove. Okay, that is another advantage. You can easily do the code optimization by removing the unwanted code or unnecessary code, with the code which is less required. You can easily remove that one. Okay, so these 3 are the primary advantages of your nested classes or inner classes. Okay, then we have the difference between nested class and inner class. See, when you make the class, when you make the inner class, okay, inside outer class you are keeping inner class, isn't it? When you make that inner class as static, when you make the inner class as static, we call it as inner class. Okay, when you make the class as non-static, not static, when you make the inner class as non-static, we call it as inner class, this terminology. So when I'm saying inner class, you have to remember, you have to consider it as non-static. But if you make the inner class as static, we'll call it as nested class. Nested class. Remember this difference, it is very, very important. When we have to call the inner class as inner class, and when we have to call the inner class as the nested class. So if the inner class is non-static, we call it as inner class. If the inner class is static, we call it as nested. Okay, so your nested class is also an inner class, but it is static inner class. So if it is static inner class, we simply call it as nested class. Okay, so when I'm saying nested class, you have to consider it as static, and when I'm saying inner class, you have to consider it as non-static. Nested class means static, inner class means non-static. Both are the nested classes only, both are the inner classes only. But the nested class, it is having special property that it is static. So over here you can see types of nested classes. There are two types of nested classes: non-static nested classes and static nested classes. So the non-static nested classes, we are calling them as inner classes. Okay, non-static nested classes, we are calling them as inner classes, and the static nested classes, we are calling them as nested classes only. Okay, so the non-static nested classes, we are having three different types: member inner class, anonymous inner class, and local inner class. Okay, your non-static classes, they are further divided into three, that is member inner classes, anonymous inner classes, local inner classes. And then the second type of nested classes, that is static nested classes, we have to discuss about them as well. So quickly go and see the description about all these classes. So when you are saying member inner class, you are making the class as nested, and it is non-static, and it is out of the method. So within the class you may have number of methods, so don't keep this member inner class inside a method. You have to put this member inner class outside the method. Okay, outside the method, a class created within the class but outside the method, we call such a class as member inner class, and it is non-static. Okay, then the anonymous inner class, a class created for implementing interfaces. So if you have in the concept of interfaces, when we study there, you will understand this more easily. So generally interfaces, they will not have any implementations for methods, so those methods needs to be implemented. So for implementing such methods, we create classes. Okay, and those classes will not have any name. Okay, those classes will not have any name. The classes which are implementing the interfaces, those classes will not have any name in reality, and we call such classes as anonymous inner classes, and they also non-static in nature. Remember this one. Anonymous inner classes, when we are saying, we use these type of classes to implement the interfaces or extend the classes. Its name is decided by the Java compiler. We are not going to give, I mean, there is a flexibility that you can give, but in general, whenever we implement an interface or whenever we extend a class, we don't give a name over there. Okay, so such classes, we call them as anonymous inner classes. More clearly you will understand when we go to the concept of inheritance, and when we go to the concept of what we call interfaces. Okay, so then local inner classes, within a class, within the method. Okay, these nested classes will go within a class and within the method. So such classes, we call them as local inner classes. Local inner classes. Then static nested classes, I have already told you, a static class created within a class. A static class created within a class, we call them as static nested classes. So these four types we need to discuss. This nested interfaces concept, it is the beyond the scope of our curriculum, but when we discuss about the concept of interfaces, there I will explain what is nested interfaces. Okay, till that time, just remember it as an interface within another interface. Okay, so quickly we go and see these concepts one by one. First we'll start with member inner class, then anonymous inner class, then local inner class, then static nested class. These four things we have to discuss. So I will start with Java member inner classes. So it is a non-static inner class. Okay, it is a non-static class that is created inside a class but outside a method. Inside a class but outside a method, we call it as a member inner class. So member inner class, the syntax for creating that one is very simple. Okay, we have to take the outer class, and inside that outer class create another class and make it as non-static, so that it will become inner class, and as it is not inside the method, we call it as member inner class. Okay, so the demonstration, the method, the program demonstration, if you try to understand over here, the outer class, we are calling it as test member outer. The outer class name, test member outer. Here we have given the name test member outer, and in it I am keeping one private data member, that is int data 30. Now I am creating another class, inner class, and in this inner class I am creating one message. See over here, this inner class, it is non-static, so you cannot access this inner class with the reference of outer class name. Okay, outer class name you cannot use over here in order to access the inner class. Definitely, in order to access the inner class, what you have to do, you need to depend on the object of this outer class. Object, because it is non-static. If it is static, you can access it using the class name of outer class. But as it is non-static, you have to depend on the object. See, anything which is non-static, you cannot go with the class name. You have to go with object name. Anything that is static, you have to go with class name. You no need to depend on instance. This difference, it is very, very important. And I think I have repeated this thing 10 times in these lectures, in these 2 lectures. So anything which is static goes with the class name, goes to the class. Anything which is non-static goes to the object. So to access the non-static content, you have to wait for the object to be created. So in order to access the static content, no need to depend on object. Without the object also you can do many things with non-static, with static content. Okay. So as over here, this inner class, it is non-static. You need to depend on the outer class object. So here we are creating one method inside this inner class, which is MSG, message method, and I'm printing the data value over here, which is private data member. So being a private data member, you can even access this private data member inside this inner class. Why means because this class is also a part of your your outer class. Okay. So now I'm taking my PSVM, and inside this PSVM I'm creating the object for my outer class. See here, in this particular statement I'm creating the object for my outer class. Now after the object creation of outer class, I am creating the object for inner class. But when I am creating the object of my inner class, I cannot create directly, as it is nested, as it is inner class. Okay. So what I have to do, I have to call, when I'm using the new keyword, use that new keyword with object dot. Use that new keyword with object dot so that you can create the inner class object. Okay. And the inner class object reference also will go something like this: outer class name followed by the inner class name. Outer class name followed by the inner class name followed by object name, then obj.new, then the constructor of the inner class only you need to call. Constructor of the inner class directly you can call. So like this you can call. Okay. Hopefully you understood this concept. So let's just see this practically. How these member inner classes will work. Okay. I'm going to my IDE, delete this entire thing. So write the class. I'm taking the class name as test demo 2. Okay. And in this class, I'm declaring my private int data equals to some 40 value I'm giving. Then declare my class inner. Declare my class inner, and in this inner class what you have to do, put a method, void run method. Okay. MSG method, message MSG. Okay. And in it what we are doing, print the private data member value, that is system.out.println of data value is print that data close. Then here you do public static void main, public static void main of string arguments. Okay. Then here create the object for outer class. What is my outer class name? Test demo 2. So test demo 2 equals to TOBJ, okay, equals to new call the constructor of outer class, test demo 2 off. So after creating the outer class object, now I am creating the inner class object. How I can create? Use the reference test demo 2 dot inner. Okay, so in equals to use the tobj dot new outer class object dot new of call the inner class constructor. That's it. Object of inner class is been member inner class is been created. Now in dot msg of calling the inner class method, that is msg. So now in this way, these two statements are very important when we are dealing with member inner classes. What are these? These are member inner classes. Okay, so compile. Yes, without any issues the program got compiled. Then run. See, from msg method we are getting the value as 40. The way how we accessed the inner class method msg, the way how we invoked the inner class method msg is very important. First we need to create the object of outer class, then use the outer class reference, inner class reference with the help of outer class, then allocate the memory by using the outer class object dot new and invoking the inner class constructor. This particular statement is very important. Okay, then invoke the method using the inner class object which you have created. So in.msg will invoke the inner class method. Okay, so this is about member inner classes. So the next thing is the anonymous inner classes. So this anonymous inner classes concept, it is somewhat tedious, somewhat complex, because we don't have the knowledge of method overriding, we don't have the knowledge of inheritance, and we don't have the knowledge of interfaces. So even if I explain that thing over here, you will not understand. So first let's just go through these inheritance and interfaces concept. Then we'll come to this anonymous inner classes, because it is a 2 marks question in your university question paper. So definitely we need to give some attention to this concept. That we will do once we complete the interfaces. Okay, anonymous inner classes, a class body without the class name. Okay, a class body we will give without the class name. Okay, so that we will discuss very soon. Then the local inner classes, this concept we will complete over here. See, local inner classes, they are similar to your member inner classes. Member inner classes will not go inside a method. Member inner classes we have to put outside a method, but local inner classes we have to put inside a method. Okay, that is the only difference between member inner classes and local inner classes. A class that is created inside a method is called local inner class in Java. If you want to invoke the method, the local inner class, you must instantiate this class inside the method. So whatever class you are taking inside a method, you must invoke that method in order to create the class instance, and in order to invoke the content whatever you kept inside the class. So for that thing to demonstrate, just come to this program. So over here what we have taken, I have given the name over here local inner. You can give any name over here. Then I am taking the private data member 30. Then I am taking the display method. Inside this display method I am creating a class with name local. Okay, and my msg, and inside that message I am accessing the private data member. So next thing, I'm coming out of this display method and I'm creating the object of my local class. Okay, local L equals to new local of, then L equals to L dot message. So inside I'm coming out of the class and creating the object and invoking the message. Okay, invoking the message. Message is there inside this local class. Okay, so if you do like this, what will happen? Yes, the object creation also you are doing within the method. So in order to create this object, and in order to invoke this method, what you have to do, you have to invoke this display method. Invoke this display method. So when you execute this display method, when you invoke this display method, what will happen? It will consider the object creation and it will consider the message invocation, message method invocation, which is there inside this local class. Okay, hopefully you understood how we are doing this local inner class execution. Okay, so in order to execute this display method, what I have to do, I have to create the object for my outer class, and using that outer class I need to outer class object, I need to invoke this display method. So once you invoke this display method, indirectly what will happen, this display method will invoke the message method as well. It will create the object for local class and it will invoke the message method as well. So this thing we will see working in our IDE. So maybe the names and all something different I have taken over there. I will go according to my example only here. So instead of member inner class, now local inner classes. So I will take the outer class name like test demo 2 only, and I am taking the private int data of 40. So here what I have to take, I have to take one method, display method, display. Okay, then my mistake here, inside display method I'm keeping all these things. Okay, so yes, my inner class will go inside display method, and after coming out of the inner class, what I have to create, yeah, instead of inner you make it as local now. Okay, local, create the local class object. So how we can, local L equals to new local off. Okay, now L dot MSG. Okay, it is a method. Then close the class, close the display method. So now I'm writing my void method, and over here TOBJ we have created, and no need of all these things. We are calling directly the display method, and display method will take care of rest of the things. So that is how come TOBJ dot display, like this. So we are invoking display method. The control will go from here to display method. So inside display method we have the local class. Okay, the definition of local class, then the creation of local class object, it will consider this one, and it will invoke the message method. L dot message, what it will invoke? L dot message means the method which is there inside the local class, message method which is there inside the local class. So this method will be invoked, and you will get this data value is for 40 message on the output screen. So just save this program and compile. It got compiled successfully. So now run. See, we got the output. Data value is 40. So just to have the understanding, maybe you're doubting that we are getting the output from the previous program. So I changed the data value as 200 now. So compile, then run. See, we got 200. So concept is very simple, local inner classes. Okay, in this inner classes and nested classes, only one topic is very difficult to understand and very difficult to implement, that is anonymous inner classes. For that we need some more understanding, without which we can't do that anonymous inner classes over here. So once we get the idea of interfaces, definitely we will implement, we will go to that anonymous inner classes. Okay. The first one, member inner classes and local inner classes, they are very easy to understand and they are very easy to implement. Already we did that one. Okay. Then the last concept in this nested classes and inner classes, that is static nested classes. Okay. So a static class that is created inside a class is called a static nested class in Java. So creating inside a class, and we are making that second, inner class as a static class, then it will become a static nested class. Okay. So when being a static nested class, it cannot access the non-static members, isn't it? Static means it can access only the static context, static content. It cannot access the non-static content. So being an non-static being a static class, it cannot access the non-static data members and methods. It can be accessed by outer class name, and as it is the static class, you no need to depend on the object of the outer class. You can access directly with the help of, by the name of outer class. Okay, so it can access the static data members of outer class, including private. Even if your static data member is private, it can access that also. Okay, static nested classes cannot access the non-static, that is nothing but instance data members or methods. We know it many times. Okay, so this is the example. We have the outer class and we have one static data member and we have the static nested class. Okay, so in this static nested class, I am keeping one message. Then how we are creating the object, you see obj, how we are creating, we are dependent on the outer class name. We are not dependent on outer class object. Nowhere we are creating the outer class object over here. We are directly depending on outer class name itself, because the inner class, it is static, it is not non-static. If it is non-static, then we have to depend on outer class object. As it is static, we no need to depend on outer class object. With the help of outer class name only, we can do the object creation of inner class, and using that inner class object, we are invoking the MSG. Very simple to implement, very simple to explain. So quickly, test demo, I'm making it as my outer class. So now we are dealing with static nested classes. Static nested classes. So outer class, inside that outer class, I'm making my static int data 200, okay, 148, something, some random value. Then no need of this display. Make your class itself as static. Static class, not local. You make the name as nested. Okay, nested, and make message data value you are printing. Then no need to create this over here. Sorry. Okay, go to PSVM and test demo 2. As this nested class is static, directly test demo 2 dot nested. Test demo 2 dot nested obj new test demo 2 dot nested off. Okay, so now test tobj, not tobj, just obj dot, not display but MSG, because MSG is within this nested class. So this is how you can access. Just check from top to bottom. So outer class, in that we took one static data member, and this static data member, to access, we are taking one static nested class, and inside that I am taking one normal method, that is MSG, and in that method I am accessing the static data member data. Okay, so then inside my PSVM, how I am creating the object of this inner class, I mean static nested class, in the sense, as it is static, we no need to depend on the object of outer class. Rather, directly with the help of name, outer class name, we can create the object of nested inner class. That is test demo 2 dot nested obj equals to new test demo 2 dot nested, like this. So this obj will be created, and obj dot message will print the content whatever we have, will execute the statements whatever we have inside this message method. So compilation, hopefully it is successful. Yes, it is successful. Now you run. See, we are getting the output 148. Data value is 148. Like that we are getting the message. So this is the concept of static nested classes. So keeping a class within another class, we have two different names. One is nested, one is inner. When the inside class name, when the inside class is non-static, we call it as inner class. When the inside class is static, we call it as nested class. Okay. So inner classes, we have three different types: member inner class, anonymous inner class, and local inner class. In these three, we discussed about member inner class and local inner classes. Anonymous inner classes, we had a commitment. After the discussion of the interfaces concept, we will discuss this anonymous inner classes. Then The static classes, static nested classes, we discussed about that also. Okay, I have demonstrated and we had the discussion, everything we have done. So after this, we have a concept called the command line arguments. It is also one of the important concept. This type of question also they are asking many times in your university papers. Okay, command line arguments. Still 10 more minutes or 15 more minutes we have, so I will try to explain this command line arguments. Okay, so if possible, let me just check whether my Java is working or not in command line. So to explain, yes, it is working. Yeah, it is working. So let me just check where my CSC and IT, right? So cd dot desktop do we have here? Yes, we have here. Then dir, yeah, it is displaying all this. Okay, what was our folder name? CSC IT, I guess, right? Okay, so how to get into that? So cd CSC IT, okay, it is taking, yeah, good. So then dir, here only we have all our files, right? Okay, so yes, because to execute this command line arguments, we cannot go with the IDE, rather we'll come to this command prompt and we'll execute from here. Okay, so let's just have the discussion on this command line arguments first, then we will write the program using IDE only, but to execute the program we have to come over here. Okay, so quickly, command line arguments. So see, in general, so far whatever programs we have discussed in Java, we have not seen how to give the output, how to give the input to the program, isn't it? Giving input like scanf in your C programming, we have not discussed any such function or any such method in Java so that we can give the input to the program. See, this command line arguments, it is one such way to give the input to the program. There are multiple ways, there are different ways to give the input to the program. This command line arguments is one such way. Okay, so the Java's command line argument is an argument that is passed at the time of running the Java program. So from where we give the input to the program, in the sense when you are executing the program, when you are running the Java program, over there itself we pass the input. Okay, over there itself we pass the input. That input you can read inside the program using the command line arguments. Okay, how we do that one, everything we will discuss step by step. Okay, so the arguments passed from the console can be received in the Java program and it can be used as an input. The second point just now I have explained. So okay, the arguments passed from the console, whatever arguments at the time of running the Java program we are passing, those arguments can be received, can be read inside the Java program and can be used as an input. Okay, command line arguments are nothing but it is a way of giving input to the Java program from the console. Remember this one. Okay, so it provides a convenient way to check the behavior of the program for different values. So not for the single value, by giving multiple different values, we can check the behavior of the program. Or we can say this command line arguments concept is helpful in testing and debugging the program. Okay, testing and debugging the program. So you can pass n number of arguments from the command line. There is no limit that you can pass only these many number of command line arguments. Okay, it is up to n. That means as many command line arguments you insist or you want to pass to the Java program, that many command line arguments, that many input values you can pass to the Java program. Hopefully you understood. So quickly we'll discuss two examples for this command line arguments. The first one is this one and the second one is this one. So the first one is a very simple example. We'll write a normal program and in that program I will show you how to receive the command line arguments from the console to the program, and how to print those command line arguments, or how to access those command line arguments as input into your Java program. Okay, so in this example we are receiving only one argument and printing it. We are not dealing, because accessing more number of arguments in the first example itself, you will get confused. In the second example we will do that one, but in the first example we will read only one argument. Okay, we'll read only one argument and we will print it on the output screen. Okay, so to run this Java program you must pass at least one argument from the command prompt. So you cannot run this program from the IDE, from the editor. So definitely you have to go to the command line argument, you have to go to the command prompt, or you have to work on an IDE which do supports the concept of passing command line arguments. There are IDEs, I'm not saying all IDEs do not support the concept of passing command line arguments. There are IDEs which do support the concept of passing command line arguments. You have to work on those in order to execute these programs. But my IDE, whatever I am using, my lightweight IDE, that is Edit Plus, it is not supporting that concept. So in order to work with these command line arguments, I'm narrating the program inside the Edit Plus IDE, but for the execution I'm going to the command prompt. Okay, hopefully you understood. So here my class name, what I have taken, command line example I have taken, and in that I'm writing my public static void main, and I'm keeping one simple message. Your first argument is args of 0. See, now why we are writing this string args after the main? See, string args when we are writing, here it is, why my cursor, here it is, we are writing string args. So this args, it is an array, it is an array with no size, it is an array with no size. So whatever command line arguments you are going to pass when you execute the Java program, all those arguments will be read inside this args array, args array. So if you pass only one command line argument, that will become args of 0. If you pass two, one is args of 0, second one is args of 1. Likewise, if you pass n arguments, that will become args of n minus 1 arguments, 0 to n minus 1. Likewise, all the command line arguments will be read inside this args array. It is an array. You can see the subscript. After this array, you can see the square brackets, subscript. So this args is an array of type string. So whatever command line arguments you pass when you execute the program, all those command line arguments will be read inside this args array like strings, like string object. It is a string class, so string class objects. Remember this one, it is very, very important. Now you might have understood why we are writing public, I have explained. Static, I have explained. Void, we know it. Main is the method name. String args, why we are passing over there, means to read the command line arguments into our Java program. Args stands for arguments. ARGS, args stands for arguments. So to read the arguments into this array like string objects. So first command line argument will become args of 0. Second command line argument args of 1. Likewise, the nth command line argument will become args of n minus 1. So in this program, what we are doing, we are reading only the first command line argument, args of 0. So we will pass only one command line argument to the program and we'll read it. Okay. So quickly, without the ado, just go and write the program over here. Okay. So test demo 2.java is my program name. So instead of taking that program name, I will change my program name. I will give class command args, command args, args, like this I have taken. So simply put public static void main of string args. Okay, args of. So after this, yes, we are reading only one system.out.println ln of args of 0. We are printing that one. We are reading 1 and we are printing 1. Okay, that's it. Or you can say here, if you want to put some message, that also you can put. Okay, first command line argument, first command line argument. Okay, then you need to concatenate, use plus. Okay, this is it. My program name is commandargs.java. Save the program, save as. Okay, so what name we have to give? This name only we have to give. C, save as. Here you save the program dot java. I can compile the program from here. So compilation, it is successful. Okay, but to run I can't do from here because it is not giving me the scope of providing the command line argument. If I run directly, I'm getting array index out of bound because we are trying to access array of 0 and we have not supplied any first argument. So we are accessing an array location which is not given, which is not supplied. So we are getting array index out of bound exception. Okay, about the exceptions also we will discuss very soon. So how I need to execute this program means I need to go to the command prompt. So over here, dir, it will list all the names. Here my command args dot class is here. So execute this command args dot class. So how come? So java space, first you compile javac space program name dot java, command args dot java. This will compile successfully. Then execute java space command args, and my first command I'm giving, first command line argument I'm giving like ISL. ISL is my first command line argument. So when I hit, it will print first command line argument ISL. Okay, first command line argument ISL. It is reading ISL and it is printing that one. Here you give some space in between so that to have the clarity. Okay, now you go here. Okay, I think I closed my command prompt. Okay, so again cd desktop cd cse it, then dir. So then javac space, what is that name? Command line argument dot java. Compilation successful. Then java space program name space first command line argument ISL. See here, we got ISL. So not only ISL, if you want to give something else over here like CSC, I want to give, you will get CSC. Whatever you pass as the first command line argument, you will get over here. To pass more number of command line arguments, just separate them with spaces. Okay, just separate them with spaces, like 1 you can pass a, you can pass 32, you can pass, but it will read only the first command line argument because we are not reading the rest of the ones. So how to read these rest of the ones? Okay, how to make your program dynamic so that it can read. Suppose if you are passing one command line argument, it should print one command line argument. If you are passing 10 command line arguments, it should print 10 command line arguments, in the sense. Yeah, array length function is there, right? That array length we are going to use. Here you can see argument dot length. We are taking a loop and we are printing all the command line arguments. So just go here to the editor and edit the program. Here now what you have to do, simply take for all int I equals to 0, I must be less than or equals to, or less than only, arguments dot length. Okay, then I plus plus. So then here, yeah, this message you put outside, this entire message you put outside, control X, only this thing you put here. Yeah, here you take another system dot out dot println of command line arguments. Okay, command line arguments. Yeah, here instead of 0 you need to put I. That's it. Okay, save the program, compile, arcs dot length, cannot find the symbol, length of GTH. Okay, so now you come over here, compile. Yeah, it is successfully compiled. So what we have to do, go to the here, yeah, execute same thing. Java, no, first we need to I think we have compiled from there, right? So no need to compile. Java command line arguments CSC 1A32. So it should read CSC into argument 0, 1 into arguments 1, 2 into A into arguments 2, 32 into arguments 3, and pass one more, the float value you pass 34.321. Okay, like this. Hit enter. It is printing all command line arguments. You can see it is reading the first value CSC into arguments 0 and it is printing. Then A 1 into arguments 1, A into arguments 2, 32 into arguments 3, 34.321 into arguments 4. Likewise, it is printing all the command line arguments. That means we are reading, isn't it? So in your examination, how they will give the program means they will ask you to read the first two command line, first two input values from the command line arguments and add those two values. So how you do that one? What we have to do, we have to read the first two values and we have to add those two values and we have to print the result. So what we have to do, this you remove, this is not required. This entire thing is not required basically. So take one simple int, okay, result equals to args arguments of 0 plus args arguments of 1. Okay, arguments of 1. That's it. Now system dot out dot println of sum, or you can make it as a result colon plus res. That's it. Save this. Now here you compile plus args. So, okay, so here, yes, these two things are string types, isn't it? So we cannot apply the what we call addition in between the strings. So what we have to do means there are some wrapper classes. The concept of wrapper classes we have to complete. After completing the wrapper classes only you will understand how to convert a string object into an integer type. Okay, so till that you just know how to read the command line arguments into your program, but to perform the functions, I mean like addition, multiplication, subtraction, we need to convert because whatever values we are reading from the command line argument, those values are of type string, and that string class object needs to be converted into integer before performing the operation. It is a different concept that we will see in wrapper classes. Okay, so once we complete the wrapper classes you will understand how to do that addition. Okay, so till that time you just follow the command line arguments how I have shown you, reading one single argument and reading multiple arguments. That's enough. Performing the operations after the wrapper classes. Wrapper classes are nothing but how we can convert a regular class object into primitive type. So your integer is a primitive type, your string, it is a class, and whatever argument we are reading, it is a string class object we are reading. So from string class object to that wrapper class, it is not possible. That error only it is giving over there. Java C command dot java, that error only it is giving. You just read that. See here, incompatible type. String cannot be converted to int. String cannot be converted to int. String is the class object and int is the primitive type. So this conversion we have to do. Directly it is not possible. We have to perform some casting mechanism over there. That we will study in wrapper classes, hopefully. Thank you very much, students. So till this command line arguments, you just follow the lecture and try to complete the assignment, whatever I am going to post with this lecture. Thank you very much, students.